Hello everyone, just checking that you can hear me okay. Just wait for one of our guys to ping back. Just wanted to welcome you to CiviCRM.Tea EP05. It is a lovely sunny day in London. It's not really, it's the opposite really. But I just wanted to welcome you all, and we'll be talking about creating emails from CiviCRM. Creating emails from CiviCRM using Mosaico and the standard mailing. So I'm going to talk you through a few things. Let me just switch scenes. Alright, hopefully you can see me now. Like I said, it's the weather's not particularly great here, so the room's looking a bit dark maybe. And just over my shoulder, over my shoulder over there, there's my dog, and he is not happy because we've not had a walk. So you might see him sulking around behind the scenes. Okie doke. So let's get on. So like I said, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how the CiviCRM standard mailing works, what some of the issues are with it. We'll talk a bit about some of the work that we did a few years ago to integrate CiviCRM with MailChimp and get lists out and integrate the two systems and what the pros and cons of that are. And then we'll look at Mosaico and the kind of solution that's come into place to help organizations send emails from within CiviCRM without the headaches that I'm going to show you that exist in the standard sending process. So I've got a CiviCRM implementation from before, so we'll just go. Feel free to do so whilst we're live. We can try to show them or talk through them. I'm running a Drupal demo like usual, but it could be WordPress. The extensions around Mosaico are cross-compatible between Drupal and WordPress, so there's no issue with using them in either. So hopefully this is all a bit familiar. I'm running a slightly lower resolution than I would do normally, because I think a few people were saying they couldn't quite read it right. So it looks a little bit different to normal. So standard Civi, for those of you who are new to Civi, you can do all your mass mailing as well as transactional emails from CiviCRM. So you should have a mailings menu or emailing. Sometimes consultants relabel that to email, but you should have a menu along these lines. And what we're going to do is create a new mailing. So this is a new mass mailing in effect we're doing, and there's some key differences. Sometimes I get asked the question, what's the difference between a mass mail, or when should I send a mass mail, as opposed to contact search, select 50 people and send an email that way. So they are two fundamentally different things. So one, the direct communication that you do from like search contacts and send an email is a transactional email, and should really be used in a situation where it's not a generic communication. So for instance, an event's been cancelled, then I want those people to receive that email regardless of their mass email settings. So this is more around bulk emails. So in effect, they're marketing emails that I'm sending out, promotional emails, keeping people up to date. So it has to take into account their bulk email preferences. So I'm going to name mine EP4. So sorry, we're in episode 5. Time flies, doesn't it? So for this one, at the moment, I haven't got Mosaico installed. I've got it there, but I haven't turned it on. What we're going to do is just I'll just move over a bit so you can carry on seeing Bumpsy. So what we're going to do is use the default stuff. So when you first install Civi, or if you've got an implementation of Civi, you might be used to seeing this kind of way of creating the emails. If you've got an old one, it looks slightly different. There were steps that you went through to get to this point, but if you're on a relatively recent Civi, it should look like this if you don't already have Mosaico, right? So Civi comes with a couple of sample templates and stuff, so I'll use this one just to show you some of the issues with the standard mailing, right? So I'm using the standard CiviMail newsletter template. I've set my from email address. I'm going to pick a bunch of recipients, and all of my emails are going to a MailChimp account. So I'll show you that and see how that looks. And I'll just say it's a bit early for the October newsletter, but let's say that's what we're sending out. Again, if you're new to Civi, just to reiterate some of the features, so I can do hi and then stick in a token. So a token is like a mail merge field. So one of the big advantages of doing your communications from CiviCRM is that you can mail merge and personalize the content that goes out. So you're not sending a generic email. You're not, you're including content in it. You could include content or could subgroup the emails so that it's for the right people. All of that information is already in the CRM, so there's no need to sync systems and do things like that. So there's some pros to doing this, and I'll talk a bit as we're going through it. I'll talk a bit more about that. So I've got my group selected. There's going to be about 38 people that it's going to go to. This number could go down as I get further into the process, but it's an approximation because by the time I produce my draft to when I send it, that number might go up or down. So here's the email content. So this is the old CK editor way of doing stuff. It's very clunky looking. It's quite what we used to get a lot of is obviously people breaking stuff. So if I want to add in an extra section here, I might do our news, and then I've got to work out how to format this. So how do I do that? So maybe it's I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's big. It looks big. Then I've got to find the right color, etc., etc. Right. So you can see it's quite cumbersome there. If I wanted to change this logo, I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to pick one. I will upload it. Who's it? So I've got our logo up there. Let's do that. Okay, so that's our logo. So stacked, and you can see it's looking a bit. It's the newsletter's already gone out because it's gone out of format because I've stuck in an image that's not quite the right size. So then I need to resize it. I've got to start messing about to get it to fit. So let's make that 100. So if that's better, that's a bit better. But now my formatting's out a little bit, so I might stick some this isn't what I do in real life, by the way. I'm just trying to show you what level of interaction a change requires. So once I start changing, and messing with the content on this style of editor, the amount of work that goes in to keep the format is quite high, right? There's quite a high touch point, especially if you're not a technical user or you're the database administrator and your users are not particularly technical. This is where they can really trip up purely by accident. So I've made a few changes. I'm not happy with the formatting, but I don't quite know how to get it right without, doing quite a lot more work. And I haven't even started changing some of the content yet. So let's say I'm happy with that and I'm happy to send it. So I might want to do some attachments. So again, in Civi mass mailing, I can attach things if I wanted to. It's worth noting just how CiviMail works is those 38 recipients will get individual emails. So it's going to send 38 emails out, right? Because each person's email is personalized, so it has their own greeting in it and stuff. So Civi always sends individual emails, so it's not doing one send to 38 people BCC'd in effect. It is doing 38 unique sends, right? So it's worth bearing that in mind when you're doing attachments and stuff, because it is going to push those out however many emails you've got. So if you've got 5,000 emails going out, and you do one attachment that will go out 5,000 times in theory, right? So it's worth just bearing that in mind. That's why a lot of consultancies and Civi suppliers recommend you don't do too many attachments, not on mass mails. Direct communication is not a problem. Transactional stuff, it's fine. Publication, so like with MailChimp and like with the other tools, I can make this publicly accessible. So once Civi sent the email, then you get the link. If you can't see this in your browser, click here to view it on on our site or whatever. So Civi will do this automatically. Now on that public version, obviously it won't include your tokens and personalization. It'll be a generic email, but for newsletters and things like that, normally that's fine. It's not a problem. Responses. So do we want to track replies? Now we normally turn this off. We normally do not do this because we don't want Civi getting in the middle of those communication. By default, if they reply, whatever you've put in the from address is where the response will go, and that is where we normally recommend you carry on your communication. There are situations where you might be automating and you might want to have some automatic actions in Civi off the back of replies and things like that you start needing to track that stuff. But for us, we don't want any. We tend to not want any more technical potential issues during the sending and replying process. So for our side, we normally keep it off, but you could turn it on if you wanted to. Tracking. So I'm gonna leave tracking on because I'll show you how tracking works as well. Because sometimes people are not quite sure how it works. So I'll show you real time how that tracking looks and how Civi tracks stuff. And the header and footer. So you normally have a standard header and footer that you would include in your mass emails to kind of have unsubscribes, links, social links, other stuff. So you can set up your standard header and footer in default Civi. So I do that. Now this is a bit weird. Funnily enough, I was doing this today and I thought, how do I actually send this? I was darting around a few buttons, and it's a bit of a UI problem because what you have to do is go to review and schedule, right? So there's a bit of a weird workflow there because that's not really a button. It looks like it's going to take me there somehow, but you've got to click on it. So go into it, just confirming what's going to happen, and what was I saying? Yeah, so it's just reconfirming what's going to happen, what groups I've included, what I've called it. I can view the HTML and stuff I don't want to. I'm not tracking replies. I'm not forwarding replies. I'm including opt-out, resubscribe, unsubscribe links, and I'm making it public as well. And I'm going to send it immediately. Well, I'm going to schedule it to send immediately. But again, using Civi Mail, I could schedule this to go out tomorrow, later today, Monday morning, whenever I wanted. So I'll submit that. Now, I'm running a test environment, so this isn't going to go anywhere. So you might set up Civi and not set up a cron. Again, we get in ideas.CiviCRM.Tea, I've seen quite a few requests for how to set up the cron properly. So if you're not at that stage where you've done that yet, and you're just trying out Civi, what you would do is go into administer, system settings, scheduled jobs. So I'll just open that in a new tab. These are all the kind of jobs that would be kicked off or could be run from the cron. So one of these is that one, send schedule mail. So at the moment it's off. I don't have the cron running, so it doesn't matter that it's off. What I'm going to do is to execute it now. And before I do that, let me just clear this down. So this is my MailChimp account. I'm clearing down all the inbox, so it's empty now. So let me just go there. So I'm going to execute that. So that's telling Civi, I want you to push out or run the job that would check if there are any mailings to push out. So right now we can see my mailing says it's scheduled and it's due to go like now, but it hasn't started yet and it hasn't completed. So I'm going to run this job. And as I'm running that, I'm going to come here, I'll just refresh this screen. So we can see now it's started, it's running. And if I run it, it's still going. So that's still going. So this is still going. Just going to wait. Yeah. All right. that's completed. So that has completed. So now my job is my scheduled mail even has completed. So sent. What I can do is have a look at the report. So this is the tracking stuff that I've got. So it's telling me I had 38 recipients in my mail job. I've successfully delivered to 38. No one's opened it yet, and I can see more information down there about what the content of the email was, who I sent it to, etc., etc. So if I come into my MailChimp account now, just to remind everyone, so if you're the idea of MailChimp is any outbound emails from my test CiviCRM environment, I want them all to be captured into a single mail account, so that I'm not going to accidentally start sending emails out to potential live accounts or live customers. So it's a good way of testing out stuff if you want to see how things work. So all of the emails, all 38 recipients have come to one mailbox. So it might seem a bit strange when you're looking at it, but I've deliberately set it up this way. So what I'm going to do is start opening them. So hi Bernadette, hi Justina, hi Sunny. So just going to refresh that report now. So you can see the open's starting to tick up. And if I looked at it again, so I'm going to open Bernadette's again, and I will open Justina's again. So I'll just refresh the stats again. So now we can see my total opens is 5. My Unicode opens is still 3, and that's because I opened the person's email twice. So that's why the numbers. That's what those two numbers mean. So that in effect, that's Unicode opens, that's total opens. And I can go a bit further with Civi if I wanted to. So I think I can just click on it. Yeah. So if I just click on the heading, it will show me who opened it, and that pretty much ties up with what I think I did on my side. So sometimes people are not sure how this works and how these stats are calculated. So this is a good way of just kind of getting some confidence in what you've set up and that it's all working how it should do. So I'll just go back, and I could do that with the total opens as well. So it's showing me who opened it and exactly what time. Obviously I'm doing this right now, so the times all look a bit weird, but normally you'd see obviously spikes when you've sent it and then trailing off for different people. Okay, so if there are any bounces and things, then obviously that would show there. If there's click-throughs, so let's see if there's anything in here to click through. I don't think there is. I don't think there's anything in Clickthroughs. Let's just try that, if that's being tracked. So let's see if I didn't try this before. Let's see if yeah, so there you go. So the click-throughs come up, and it's telling me what I clicked in the email to get to where I wanted to get to. So you can see that the stats are quite powerful. We have had people in the past, customers in the past, ask about potentially contacting or sending follow-ups to people who had clicked things but may not have gone through with the call to action. So they might have clicked on a link to book an event but never actually booked. So all the data's there in Civi to be able to do something with that. Whether you do or don't, I guess, is up to you and how comfortable you feel about letting people know. I mean, I'm quite used to getting emails saying my shopping cart is still got things in it, I haven't completed purchases, etc., etc. So I'm quite used to seeing that. You may not be so comfortable with that, but all the data's there in Civi, so you can build on that, and you can get quite targeted about how you follow up on things. So that just gives you an overview of how Civi and its mailing kind of works. So the key bit there was the production of the email content itself was quite hard work. Like, we've been doing CiviCRM implementation and consultancy for the last 12, 13 years. I've been involved a bit longer than that, and we saw these issues before. Like, as a system to be used by multiple users, i.e. more than 10 users, more than 15 users, and where those users are used to sending emails from things like MailChimp, Civi wasn't really up to scratch at that point. Like, you couldn't use it easy enough. So we were the ones, Veda Consulting were the ones who integrated Civi with MailChimp. The idea being that it shouldn't be a kind of a red cross against Civi that its email building template is not the easiest to use. So the idea would be that you'd still send from MailChimp, but the two systems are integrated, so the groups of contacts sync up between Civi and MailChimp. So that way you're kind of getting the best of MailChimp, i.e., all of its templating tools and reporting tools, but you're keeping your single point of truth, which is CiviCRM. So if someone's out of a group, opted out or opted in, then that is pushed from CiviCRM into MailChimp. If they carry out an action in MailChimp, that is updated back to CiviCRM. So we produced that integration, and that was very successful. I think I've got the stats up somewhere. Yeah, let's have a look. So these are the CiviCRM stats. So just to show you in terms of how successful it's been. So yeah, so MailChimp integration, it's in the top 20. So it's obviously quite a well-used extension. These stats are, if anything, on the low side. There'll be more users of MailChimp than that. There'll be more users of Mosaico, because I can set my site up not to report back, so it won't show on here. So that was successful up, and was going well. And one of the primary reasons we did that was because there wasn't an open source tool to build email templates easily. So I didn't think it was the right thing to do for Civi to build their own, because you're never going to quite get to the levels of some of the other tools out there. So that was until about 2 or 3 years ago, where a new kid to the block turned up. I think it's Mosaico. Yeah. So these guys turned up with a templating tool, Mosaico.io, and this tool is open source and lets you build email templates in the way that you would expect in some of the commercial mailing platforms. So that's a really long-winded way to get back to what is Mosaico, right? So if you're new to CiviCRM, you'll be seeing all this stuff about use Mosaico, and it doesn't really make sense. Like, what is that? So Mosaico is an open source email template builder. So when we're talking about using Mosaico in Civi, there is an extension or a combination of extensions that you would use to introduce this functionality into Civi. So let's do that now. So I'm going to go into my CiviCRM. So let's go into extensions. So I've already got the extensions there. I just turned them off earlier because I wanted to show you what it all looked like without these kind of tools in place. So the first thing I need is FlexiMailer. So I'm going to enable that, or FlexMailer even. I'm hoping this all enables cleanly. Cool. So that's enabled. And then the second one that I need is Mosaico itself. So I'm going to enable that. Then I'm going to enable one more, and I'll talk a bit about that later, but I'll enable it now, which is this one, Mosaico template something. So like I say, I'll talk about that one a bit later. Mosaico message template. So the key ones are FlexMailer and Mosaico. So I've got those two installed. So now if I go back and let's redo the same journey. So if I go to a new mailing, and let's call this what did I call it? October. So that mailing name is an internal name. It's not what's going to go out. So I can call it what I like. But so I'm calling it EP05 CiviCRM.Tea. Leave the from as the same. I'm going to pick the same group. I want it to go to. I'm going to call it the same thing. And I could do the same tokens exactly the same way. I'm not going to because So what I've got is you will end up with a bunch of templates. So instead of the editor, I've now got the ability to pick a template. So you end up with 3. So this one, an empty template, which is an example of what you can do, a tutorial, and then the Versafix empty template. So I'm just going to start with the Versafix one. That's a kind of empty one. So as soon as I pick it, I'm into the template builder, right? So now I can start putting together my email. So I might say I want an image at the top. Then I want, what do I want? Let's have a bigger image and some text, and then a block with some images, and then we're gonna have a call to action button, and then maybe some images down at the bottom, right? So I'm starting to format my email how I want it to look. So we saw in the other example of how to put in an image and what I had to do to it. So here I've got a size box for what that image needs to fit into. I'm just going to pull exactly the same image that I did for the other example in, and you can see that, oh, I didn't want to do that. So you can see I've got some sizing options, and it will automatically size it correctly and put it into the right place. Here, that block is a width block rather than a kind of height block, so that's why it's taken that extra height. But width wise, it wouldn't let me expand beyond that. So let's do that with the same image down here. What have I got? I've got some phones, I think. There's some phones. Yeah, and we can see, you know, Mosaico's dealing with the sizing. It's making sure I'm keeping everything in check. Let's put in my section title. So I put in my section title again. How much easier was that than trying to do it the old way? Yeah, it's 100 times easier. And let's put in my text. Same thing with the button. So again, with the button, I've got a nice clear interface here on the left. Where do I want it? Where do I want that link to go? So let's go. I'll just take it straight to the. That's the wrong one. I didn't want that. So if I did want an image in my button, I could put one in, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So I've got that in there. So that's all looking good. So this section on the left is all about styling the blocks. So for instance, I've got my title in there, apps are great. So if I didn't want to show a title in that block, I can uncheck it. So the apps are great goes off. If I didn't want the button in the block, so there was no call to action, I could take the button off. And finally, I could take the image off. If I took the image off, then I might as well have picked a different block. But what I might want to do is do that. So I have the image and the text, but no call to action. But if I do want a call to action, I'll put it back in, or a button in there. So in the same way, I can fill out my content pretty quick. So I'll just grab some more images. Right, then at the bottom, let's take that one. Can't drag anymore. Let's go back. So that's Vumsy when he was younger. That's probably not the right image there. Let's grab another image. There you go. That's him when he was younger. And I'm going to put our logo back in here. So you can see it's resizing, it's doing things with it. So it's keeping my image it's keeping the restrictions around my format. So it's resizing the image or cropping it in the right places. So if I made my image a bit smaller, it would scale it correctly. It would make sure it fits right. So as long as I've got the width right, it should deal with it. What other ones have I got? That one. That is. Oh, some chips. Let's have some chips. and then somewhere in here something about newsletters and stuff. So again, in the same way, I can quite quickly put my email content together and come up with, I admit the formatting here isn't great, but I can put together my email in the same way that I would do in MailChimp or any other kind of mass mailing tool. Again, I've got more options here, so I've got styles here. So if I wanted my external background to just be white, so I'm going to go for a white on white email because they scale a bit better. They look at it a bit more fluid. I could do that, but in the same way, I might say, well, let's go for a funky orange, or let's go back to the off-white one. So I'm going to go for a slight and play it safe and go for a slightly grey background. Just going back to the blocks. So again, with the blocks, I can put my social media links and my footer in, my header and my unsubscriber there. So I think that's good. I think I'm good to go on that. So just going to close this. Yeah, just going to close that, and I'm pretty much done with that. So I'm not going to go through the rest of it. I'm leaving everything else as defaults. So I'm going to review that. Yep, fine. Submit that mailing. Okay, so now I've got the same process as before. I'm just going to send it. So, like I say, if you were in a production system, you wouldn't do this step. This step would be happening automatically. It's just because I'm running a test environment. So send schedule mailings. So let's just have a look. So it's running. So we're good there. No, I did it the other way around this time. Run, so that's finished now. So let's run that there. So we're good. We're done. So we've got the report there, same as before. It's exactly the same. We'll go into MailTrap this time. So I've got a different header. So if I look now, so you can see an immediate difference in the email presentation. It's centered. It's looking correct. It's putting everything in the right places. Now I'm just going to show you. So if we go back to our old emails. So this is what they look like. We're quite centered now. I've got in MailTrap the ability to view them in different devices. So this is a kind of tablet view. If I get to a mobile view, this is when you can see that template really going wrong. It's not scaling at all. It's not resizing, and it's not responding to the device at all. Now I know there's a couple of other responsive templates in the default Civi, but you've still got the same editing issues, i.e. it's very easy to break the template, and therefore it's no longer responsive. So if you don't make it responsive, this is what people see. And we know that the majority of recipients these days will open the email in the first instance, at least on a mobile device. It's very rarely will they open it on a desktop, especially in this new world we're in. It's probably on a mobile stroke tablet that they're going to open emails on. So if we do the same activity on my one, so or not my one, but the Mosaico one, that's it on a full screen desktop. This is it on a tablet, so no need to respond there because it's fitting nicely, and this is it on a mobile. So we can see that the articles have now staggered underneath each other. So everything has responded to the device. It's kept things centered where they should be. It's resized and rescaled all my images accordingly as well. So I end up with a much better and much more consistent output, and my constituents are going to get a much more consistent feel and a high quality kind of engagement with me. So there's some of the benefits of using Mosaico and why you might hear it bandied about quite a lot, and you might see that in stats in CiviCRM it's the number one extension. FlexMailer is an extension that was built because of Mosaico to allow you to interchange Mosaico with other things and allow Mosaico to work without Shoreditch needing to be there. So the FlexMailer and Mosaico are in effect the same extension. So you can see the usage of it and why it's spoken about quite a lot. Like I say, the word Mosaico is effectively the email building tool. So everything else still works exactly the same way. So my uniques, my stats, all work in the Civi way, like they would do normally. And with Mosaico now, then what the barriers that we talked about before about why you would continue to use MailChimp and not send your emails from Civi, they are removed, right? So why would you continue to have this systems integrated when you could just install Mosaico and send it directly from Civi? Now, there are some technical reasons that you might not. So, for instance, you haven't quite got a setup that allows you to send mass emails, so you couldn't deliver them. So that might be a reason. I mean, it's not a particularly difficult reason to solve, but that might be a reason. Another one might be that your users are used to MailChimp, and therefore, to transition them off onto Civi is going to be quite a lot of work. That again is a valid reason. I'm not sure it's tactically and the right approach to take, but we hear that quite a lot, that our users who are occasional users might be the marketing people coming into the organization once or twice a week, and they don't need to learn how Civi works or anything, so let's just leave them on MailChimp. That's fine. But the downside of that approach and the downside of having the integration is that you're not able to get that personalization quite there or where it could be. So when you integrate Civi with MailChimp, all you get in MailChimp is the email address, the first name and last name, and some other fields maybe. So we've done some work with some customers where more information from Civi ends up in MailChimp. So you might have some information there. The sync itself might be running daily or maybe twice in a day, and you've always got this situation where the MailChimp list is not quite the same as the Civi list. So let's say in your Civi group you've got 200 people. In MailChimp you will invariably end up with less, so you might end up with 170. So what we often get is, well, where've my contacts gone? Where my list used to be 200 in Civi, or is 200 in Civi, but it's 170 in MailChimp. So what's going on? So there could be a number of reasons for that. So for instance, in Civi, we can have the same email address against multiple contacts. That might not be the right thing, but it's possible. So that's one reason, and one of the biggest reasons that we often see a reduction in numbers when it hits the MailChimp group. Now in Civi, they could be two contacts. There might be a family sharing an email address. It might be a bunch of work, employee contacts who've all had the same email address put against them, or they used it during registration for an event. There could be a whole host of reasons that it's the same email address, but in Civi, it might be that they are different contacts. So there is the possibility that you would want to send them different communications, i.e. when the personalization's there, it's going to have a different name in it. Whereas if you push that to MailChimp, you've always got the situation where you don't know what to do. So I've got 5 contacts in Civi that all have the same email address but different names. I push them into MailChimp. I've got one contact now in MailChimp because MailChimp doesn't allow duplicate email addresses per list. So I've got one contact in MailChimp. So what do I do about the name? Which name do I put against it? So your personalization there has to be some compromises to it, and how you go about dealing with that kind of scenario. So there are some organizational, there's some real issues that you kind of have to accept are going to be there when you integrate any system like that. They're the kind of things that fall out. So there's that, and then there's the whole reporting side. So the other argument we hear quite a lot is, well, the reporting in MailChimp's a lot better than in Civi. And again, when you're kind of talking to people, there's A/B testing in Civi. There are quite a few tools to kind of help you there. The decision you need to make is how important is it for me to do that, and how often do I do that, as opposed to how much do I need to personalize and try to connect with my donor stroke constituents, right? That's really the question. So if you want everyone to be on a single point of truth and you want content to be tailored, then really you need to start sending it from a single source, or at least a way that all systems are using a single source. So there's some of the things you need to think about. So just going back to Mosaico then, the other extension that I turned on was the message templates one, I think. There, brain freeze there. Yeah, so the other extension that I turned on was the Mosaico message templates. So the other power of the Mosaico templates, well, before this extension came along, if you had schedule reminders or you had transactional emails, you couldn't use Mosaico templates for those, right? So people had worked around this, but what they were doing was taking the HTML that the Mosaico template produces and then pasting it into schedule reminders and stuff like that. And that was fine. It did the trick. I think a couple of people showed me at the Civi community thing event, and it all looked good, and it kind of worked. But it is a workaround. You couldn't expect an end user to carry out that kind of task, because there's too many touch points. There's too many places to make a mistake. So what this extension does, and this is by Rich, Artful Robot, I think, is it copies Mosaico templates into message templates. So it lets you use the same Mosaico template for message templates. I say for message template, for things like schedule reminders or transactional emails. So that way you're getting a much better quality of email there. I'm just trying to think how I can show this. So maybe if I do, let's just do a back office. I'll do a back office membership. So let's create a new membership. Let's find someone with an email address. Yeah, he's got one. So I'm going to give him a student membership and record membership payment. I'm not going to record a payment, so I can't be bothered. But I'm going to, let's record a payment. Let's do that. Membership dues completed. Lovely. It's an American check. We don't like that, so let's just say it was cash. So I'm going to send a confirmation email. I've recorded everything. Great. So you can see standard Civi email, not the best looking thing in the world. And when I'm doing schedule reminders and stuff like that, I'm putting out the same kind of content. It's more like a receipt than it is a welcome on or onboarding email. So what you probably want to do is be able to use the Civi templates in some of this stuff. So if we go to just thinking where to go, maybe if I set up let's go, where is it? Mosaico templates. So here I've got the templates that I used. So this one, so I can create I've got some here anyway. So let's have a look at this one. So here's one that I did before. It's a much better looking email, isn't it? So here I changed some of the colours and put my stuff in it. This is when we're doing the rules demo. So here I've got a template from before, and what I can then do in schedule reminders, I can add a reminder, and I can do this in rules as well. So I could use the same I'll just do 1 hour after the join date. So here, then I can use that template. So so it looks a bit off there, but you shouldn't edit it from here. So once I've picked it, it's just bringing in all the Mosaico HTML. If I save that, then what's required? So I'll create that, and yeah, so I create that template, create that schedule reminder, and now that's using a Mosaico template, right? So, like I said, the recipient's going to get a much better looking email than they would do if I used the standard CK editor style. See if there's any questions. No questions yet. Okay. What else do we have? Is there anything else on here? Done the reporting. Oh, so the groups is the other thing, right? So yeah, one of the big problems and one of the big kind of drives to get Mosaico implemented was when GDPR came into place. So again, using two systems or using any external system, what MailChimp weren't doing was telling anyone where their data was held. So if you had MailChimp and Civi during the run up to GDPR, you're probably trying to find out where all the data was kept for your systems, because you need to obviously put that into your data policies and your privacy policies that people are subscribing to or accepting. So when that came into place, MailChimp weren't telling anyone where the data was. Now, it's probably because it's in the cloud and they hadn't restricted their cloud service to any particular region. That's my feeling. I mean, they never said this, but it took them a long time to come up with a statement of where that data was. So again, that was another big driver to say, well, this is the downside of using an external system like that. There's other reasons to use external systems, but one where there's so much data flying around, email addresses especially, it could become a problem if that email list was exposed or became public, right? So at that time, it was a lot of the discussion in the Civi community was, well, if you were sending from your Civi, you wouldn't have that problem, and more importantly, the opt-in, opt-out, and data privacy stuff would all be in the same place. So when I send the mass email from Civi, when I get the unsubscribe stuff, I'm going through to a Civi page that I'm logged in here, so I'm seeing a slightly different look and feel to what end users would really see. And I don't have the GDPR extension enabled, but I'm going through to Civi, and that is where I'm recording my communication preference. So if I opted into the data policy, if I did all that stuff, then it's the same data that's being used to drive my sending process. So I can be sure that everybody I'm emailing has opted in and has accepted the data policy, and they understand where their data is. When I'm using a third-party system, I kind of lose that control. So how do I get them to accept the data policy before I've sent them an email from MailChimp? There are avenues where contacts could still get into MailChimp without having gone through my data policy and privacy acceptance process. So that makes it really awkward. So if that person then says, well, how did you get my data? You would have to go back to MailChimp to work out how they came about in your MailChimp group, whether somebody imported them or they subscribed a slightly different way and ended up in MailChimp. and therefore then how did they get into your CRM without accepting the data policies, and and all of that chain of events you then have to somehow explain. Now obviously it sounds a lot scarier than it is, but they're just some of the reasons that organizational and kind of data data farming stroke boundaries information that you need to take into account when you're making these sort of decisions. That if somebody did ask, how did I get into your mail list? If you've got one route to do it and you're holding it in one place, it's a much easier, question to answer. So, for instance, if somebody signed up for an event and came into Civi, they would have checked the data privacy terms and conditions and data privacy through the Civi stroke web form stroke Caldera forms. They would have accepted that and come into Civi, and you would have a record of that interaction. But if you're taking data from third-party systems, then the onus is on you still to make sure that it came in right. But it's really difficult to audit that and to come up with the story back to whoever's asking you. So, my direction is, if you can send it from Civi and you can use Mosaico, then you should try and get to that place. That's where you'll have the lowest number of long-term issues. And when I say issues, I mean potential issues. MailChimp will work fine and everything will work and integrate. It's just you've got more than one system, and anytime you have more than one system, you have more issues, right? So that's what I would say to it. I'm hoping what I've showed you kind of shows you what how comparable Mosaico is to MailChimp. So let's just go back there. So the whole so I'm just creating a new one. So the whole drag and drop, the styling, moving them around. So even if I got it all wrong order, I can move it around easy enough. The style, like I talked about, the background color, let's go with that. Blue, no, let's not do that. Let's go with that, and let's go with the darker blue. So I can get it quite nice. Again, that block, I might want to make it blue as well, make the whole thing much more seamless email. So I can quite quickly start building what I want to build, and at least get to a point where I'm near enough where I want to be, that the advantages of having all my data in one place become, start to take over the usability of MailChimp. I'm much in the same place now, so the reasons to use third-party systems become less and less. So I don't think I've got anything else that I want to cover. I can't see any questions that have come in. I'm just going to see if the guys have anything else they want me to cover off. I don't think so. What else? So I hope you all enjoyed that, or found it informative. Don't know about enjoyed it. So my dog's moved from one place to the other, so he's now on this way. He's now, this is all backwards. I'm looking at the screen, so he's now right behind me there, looking up, trying to work out what day it is. So if you, I'll just bring up CiviCRM.Tea. So for those of you that are new to this or are watching this at a later date, we take any suggestions on ideas.CiviCRM.Tea, and we try to cover off topics that are most wanted. So if there is anything that you'd like to see or are interested in, and if you see it, you can upvote it. If you don't see it, you're more than welcome to suggest it, and we'll try and get round to tackling them, like I say, in the order of most wanted. But if there's something like Zoom integration, COVID issues, we might give them priority for now, because they can help organizations get the most out of their CiviCRM in this difficult time. So please do interact and let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll try and cover that off. Okay, cool. So let's leave it there. If you have any questions, like I say, ideas.CiviCRM.TV. Next session will be in 2 weeks, and at the moment it looks like deploying CiviCRM with Drupal 8, but I can't say I'm particularly comfortable with that. But if it's not that, we'll do web forms or another COVID suggestion if one comes up. All right, thanks a lot, guys, and see you in a couple of weeks.